how Salsations came to be.
So Salsation came to be back in 1998. We've been around for 15 years. And originally Salsation started out as a group called Caliente, an improv group out of IO and Second City. And it was comprised of Latino actors who at the time felt that there weren't any real avenues for them to express Latino-based comedy at the major institutions such as the Second City, IO, Comedy Sports, so on and so forth. So they decided to band together and start Salsation. We became a not-for-profit in 2002, and we became known for sketch comedy, which is a natural progression from improv. And then recently we've gotten into spoken word and musical improvisation with Improviachis. So we cover a really wide array of different kinds of talents, all of it based off improv for the most part.
How did you come up with this form that I've seen you do, the Los Improviachis, where you're taking this like cultural form that I probably first encountered at some terrible chain Mexican restaurant in West Michigan where I grew up. But how did you come upon that form?
Good question. So it's actually a form that I've had in my head for at least 2 years. And I had gotten an interest, I'm much more, I actually have a really strong musical background, and I'd done all the musical improv stuff in the city, and I was trying to find a way to find Salsation to finally get us to do full-blown musicals in some way, shape, or form. And I was at a show with a friend of mine, and they did a scene where they had, all they did was wear a sombrero. And they were doing a scene that had nothing to do with music or singing, and I saw it and I started thinking about it, and I went off in my own little world and started thinking about it and said, hey, wouldn't it be cool that we take mariachis and we just improvise as mariachis? It was that simple, it was that creative, and then I started fleshing it out for about a year in my head as to how we would go about making it something static and something that was something that could transcend just being a band and just being an improv group. How do we merge them together? And that's where we kind of came up with the idea of having static characters in the band, like any other band you would see out there. You have static people, characters, instrumentation, things of that nature, and then we just built from there, and it's worked out so far.
So you've been performing as Los Improviachis for about 2 years, you said?
So it's been about a year and a half almost, formally. We started out in May of 2012, roughly. So yeah, it's going to be 2 years pretty soon, and we had a little break in there somewhere, so about 2 years.
I'm going to go around, and will you all tell me how you came to be involved in this?
Sure. Well, I'm Frankie, and my Improviachi persona is Don Lorenzo de la Verga. And I joined because I've been good friends with Nelson for about 6 or 7 years now, maybe a little longer. We met in classes at Second City. We were both involved with the Outreach and Diversity Ensemble, known as Brown Co. And so we've known each other for a lot of years. So about a year and a half ago or so, Nelson just called me up. I had been on sort of a break from any form of performance for about 4 years. And Nelson offered me this opportunity and brought me back to life a little bit. So that's how I got involved.
Is Brown Co. an official name, or is this a nickname?
I think the official name is the Outreach and Diversity Ensemble, but it's affectionately called Brown Co. because it's sort of the minority culling ground, I guess, because Second City has different touring groups, and all the different companies are named after a color. There's Red Co., Blue Co., Green Co., and so forth. So they call this one Brown Co. But I don't
It's not derogatory in any way, shape, or form. It's just, it's cute.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody everyone calls it that, and it's tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
I'm Brenden Duffy. I play the mariachi Ben Carroll, Stephen Carroll, and I got involved in the group. I live with another Improviachi, and so I was coming to see the shows and supportive of the group, and I said, I'm a musician as well. Here's what I can do. Do we think that this would be an asset? And we started jamming together, and it worked out. And so I joined up. And,
What do you play in the band?
Keyboard. Piano.
I'm Natalie Morreti, and my character is Diana Castillo Perez, and also I have a sub-character of Raul Rivera, who comes out sometimes. And I live with Brenden Duffy, so that's I'm the roommate. I met one of the other members, Joy Valdez, in a class at the Annoyance Theater. We were taking music improv, like introductions to music improv, and introductions to writing. So her and I actually wrote a song together, and we like kind of bonded, and she was like, you should audition for our group, or come like at least meet our group and see what's going on, because I think you would like it, because I can play music, and like I'm super into, you know, sketch and improv. So I came and met everybody last summer, like in June, or May or June, and it was a good fit, and they accepted me. And the rest is history.
Yay. I forgot to say my last name. Benavides. It's Frankie Benavides. Everybody else said their last names.
We will, before I wrap up, we'll go around and you're all going to spell all
Oh.
the names.
Okay.
So what does performing in the context of a Latino theater group do for you as artists, I wonder? Take a shot
I'll be happy. So, you know, I've been with Salsation since 2005, and the thing that's afforded me is, it's afforded me the sense of allowing me to reconnect from a cultural perspective. I'm kind of a coconut, so I'm brown on the outside, white on the inside. I grew up in Texas, but I'm not very, very tight with my heritage. My father's Puerto Rican, my mom's Brazilian, but I've lived in Texas my whole life, and then moved up to Chicago. So it's allowed me to have to reconnect as to who I am as a Latino and what that means and how that means within this theater company. Being the artistic director, it's probably important to have your artistic director understand who he is as a Latino to lead, you know, us into other forays. So it's afforded me that, and it's also given me an opportunity to prove that we're not a one-trick pony as artists. Like, we can do multiple things. Again, Salsation is known for things, but then you get pigeonholed very easily as like, oh, all they do is sketch. All they do are, you know, spoken word things. And I wanted to say, no, people within Salsation, we have a diverse cast, diverse backgrounds, and we can do multiple things.
Yeah.
Could you repeat the question one more time?
What performing, like playing in the context of a Latino theater company, does that do anything particular for you as an artist or a player?
Yeah, I guess I kind of have two answers. You know, one, I'm Latino. My mother and father are from Colombia, and I was born and raised in Texas, just like Nelson. We actually are both from the same town, and we never knew each other until we moved here. But anyway, you know, being a part of a Latino musical improv group is a nice, like Nelson said, a nice way for me to connect a little bit with my heritage. So, you know, that's nice, but, you know, I think one of the nicest things about our group is that people are a member of it who aren't just Latino. You know, we've had members of lots of different races and ethnicities be improviachis who've come in and out. And it doesn't matter, because when we're on stage and when we're rehearsing together, we're all Latino in one way or another. And I think that it's that sort of communion in play that we all, you know, we all become the same thing, even for a little while. It's a nice feeling.
I think for me it's just interesting to take something that you are passionate about with performing and improv and this art world and look at it from a different viewpoint and kind of take, so we're doing this comedy with this you know, Latino flavor to it, and look at this thing that I'm honing in as an artist and just say, okay, well, this is me, and I'm going to look at it from a background that I'm not from, and that I you know, I don't have as much experience with, and now what does that bring to me? What have I learned, you know, as a person, but also as a performer? And that's just cool to be gifted that opportunity to do so, because that's not always something that comes up for people. They don't have the chance to, you know, take that and kind of break it down and explore it.
I think when Joy first like asked me to come be a part of the group, or at least like introduce me to people, I was kind of like, oh, I'm a Latino, I don't speak Spanish. Like, I was concerned that I wouldn't fit in, but she was like, no, it's not that kind of thing. It, like, and she explained it a little further, and the setup and like, you know, then I got to come be a part of rehearsal and see what it really was all about. And I understood better, and it like excited me at the opportunity, like Brenden said, of just being a part of something that's like based in a tradition, but you know, takes a different spin and different like life. So I really liked getting the opportunity to like feel that out. And Salsation like welcomed me into doing the sketch show with them this fall, which was really fun. And I was kind of had the same hesitation with like when they first asked if I wanted to be a part of it. I was like, are there parts, are there roles, like what, how do I fit in? And they of course were like, of course there are roles, like of course it's all fine, like be a part of this. So I really appreciate, you know, just being welcomed in to the context of all of the shows and all the things that they work on, because they have very like contemporary and very they're very realistic. The sketches they do are really very realistic and very accessible to like an audience of all races and all situations. So getting to be a part of that as a non-Latino is really cool. And I don't know, I love the music, and I love like that it sparks in me to like kind of like seek out like traditional mariachi music and traditional other kinds of music that's Latino to, I don't know, see what that sounds like and feels like, because we all try to bring that feel into the music that we make, even if the situations are absurd and like improv-y, I guess.
So you hear a lot about from improvisers or improv coaches, I think, that, you know, when we get up on stage, we can be anyone. You might have to play a woman, you might have to play a gazelle.
He plays a fierce gazelle.
I typecast. And then there's something, I don't quite know how to phrase my question, but there's that contrasted with the value of someone actually bringing their cultural experience onto stage with them that might contrast to, I mean, I think the run-of-the-mill improviser in Chicago, I have to fact check this, it might be a 25-year-old white kid.
No fact check needed.
So do you have any thoughts about that, like walking on stage with your identity and your perspective?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I've got a lot of thoughts on this. So you're right, in the sense of, you know, we're told and we're trained that, you know, the whole idea of improvisation is you're making theater without a script, and that you can, you know, in the world of yes and, you are accepting the realities that are put forth, and you're playing to them with the height of your intelligence, right? And that's what we're taught to do. But what I find interesting is when it comes down to race, that's not always the case. What I've experienced personally, anecdotally, is that it's okay as long as whoever is with you is comfortable with talking about race or talking about what it is that you're going to be bringing forth. And as long as you fit within that comfort zone, then they're cool working with you on that level. But when you kind of go far left or far right, depending on how you think about it, the scene work kind of gets weird. Because I think the idea of race, we talk about it, we talk at it, we don't talk about it. We say, oh, you're going to play a 25-year-old black woman. Well, what does that really mean? We don't actually break down what the different races are going to, you know, what isn't stereotypically done and what is stereotypically done. And because the pool of people that we work with is typically white and male, everyone gets kind of weird about it, and there's a sense of like, oh, we're not allowed to talk about that. We're not allowed to play to that. And when they get the one person or two people who are of color and can do some stuff, then it's almost as if everyone's like, whew, oh, thank you for joining. We didn't want to have to touch that. We can't play that, because if we play it, then we come off stereotypical or racist. You get to play everything else that's, you know, ambiguously ethnic, and we'll let you take care of that, and that's kind of your job to do. And then when you kind of try to play on that level with those people, like you're trying to throw it back at them, you're trying to play above that. Maybe I don't want to play the stereotypical Latino guy. Maybe I want to be, maybe I want to play an Asian man, you know, and maybe I want to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to go ahead and play it. And because I have a sense of comfort with playing different kinds of races and interacting with them, I've traveled all over the world, I've experienced these things, I want to bring them to the stage. but it's not as inviting as it should be, as we're being told as it should be. And I think that's what's kind of cool about Salsation, in the sense of we're bringing in everybody. Like, if you've got the skill and you've got an appreciation of Latino culture, and understand that everything that you're going to experience is through that lens, then we're accepting of it. And we want to hear, and we want to know what those are, and we want to plan to the height of everyone's ability.
Do you have thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Well, your question reminded me of something that one of my teachers said when I was taking classes at Second City Conservatory, and it was a statement that, you know, if you're a man, don't play a woman on stage, because they're not going to be watching. They're not going to be watching your character. They're going to be watching a man play a woman. And, you know, that was many years ago that I heard this little tidbit from one of my teachers, and I've thought about it, and I'm not sure that I completely agree. And it's sort of similar when it comes to playing someone of a different race or ethnicity or culture. You know, it's probably not the most fun thing to feel constrained in what you can do because you're worried about, you know, offending someone. But I think that what we do when we do play something that we're not is to try to be mindful of just playing what really matters about this other race or ethnicity, which is that they're just like us in all the ways that matter. We're all just human. And I don't think that, you know, if I were to play a black female character, for example, I would do my best not to, you know, fill it with so many stereotypes and physicalities. I would maybe add a little bit of that, but for the most part, you know, I would try to focus on, you know, the more universal elements.
But you would feel comfortable playing that, though, like in the sense of like you feel that you would have the permission to be able to play that, whereas other actors don't feel that they can have that permission to play that way.
Right. Yeah, you know, well, I think, you know, it's a matter of how you approach it, you know, and I think that, you know, and I don't even want to say respectfully, but just focusing on the things about playing, you know, a black female, for example, that are just like my experience. I think that's what I would try to focus on, because from the root, like, I think of everybody as just sort of being like the tip of an anemone.
Yeah.
You know, we all have the same basic foundation. Yeah, it's very Sesame Street.
I like that.
Fraggle Rock.
I think to add on to that is that the unique thing about you know, the theatrical experience, and by extension the improv experience, is that what brings an audience in and what makes us watch it is that we are seeing an aspect of the human experience. And so it doesn't matter if I'm playing myself, if I'm playing someone of a different color or cultural background, or a toaster. If I'm a toaster that is, you know, worried about my first day on the job, then that's something that someone can relate to. And so when, at the root of it, if you just bring in, okay, here's my brick of something that a human feels or experiences, then you can put any, you know, facet on top of that, and it doesn't change what it is. And so I think that one, because we're grounded in that, or you know, as an improviser, if you walk in with that in mind, just playing true to the human experience, you can play anything and have it be, you know, cool.
You talked about coming into the group as a non-Latina, and Nelson talked about playing from a Latino point of view or through that lens. So that sounds challenging.
I mean, it is challenging, but also freeing, I would say, just because when I started, a few of the members already had like their characters created, and like I was joining. So the assignment, you know, as a new member, was to create a character that could play in this troupe of people, and like really, I don't know, that would be freeing and accessible to me, because like as you see in our shows, like we get into all kinds of situations, all kinds of setups, like you have to be comfortable enough in that other reality. So Nelson had suggested like that it would make sense, or it would be easy if the characters were Latino or had like some kind of like Latino tie, just you know, to make it to fit structurally. And I think we all like have super interesting characters, and like they all tie into cultures like in super interesting ways. So I did choose to be a Latino character, and but the truths that I put into it, I tried to align with myself first, and then like I created this character of like someone close to my age, someone close to my like knowledge, like the same kind of like educational background, the same kind of family structure, all of that, same kind of fears, all of it. And then I put her, like, you know, I made her family from, I think, California is the idea. And then I think,
Or Mexico.
yeah, yeah, is my character's, like, identity. And, you know, she's the same kind of family life and the same kind of, like, reactions to things that I have. So it's framed because it's me, but it's a different layer of me. And then that also allowed me to create this like sub-character, which is just an older Mexican man who my character sometimes goes to as like a defense mechanism because she's shy or nervous or something, or afraid of something. So that will come out. So having both characters is really freeing, but also like being able to pull from what I know from the culture or from what I know from my own culture and my own life, you know, just adds a layer and adds a reality and makes it not stressful and not like, I don't feel like I'm doing a disjustice to anyone. I don't feel like I'm being judged, and my team players are all like super supportive of that. So I don't know, it was hard to like figure out how I would fit in, but then once I figured it out, I feel super comfortable.
Can I do that? Mm-hmm. And you know, we have a few members, a couple of members who are not here, but you know, Joy Valdez, she plays Corazoncito Alegría, and her character is very steeped in Mexican mysticism. She's a connoisseur of whiskey. You know, she has a tamale cart side business that she made up for herself.
She's obsessed with Frida Kahlo.
Obsessed with Frida Kahlo. And you know, Rose Cuccione, who is a lyrical opera singer.
And she's Italian-American.
An Italian-American. You know, came up with La Viagra, and came up with an entire incredible backstory, which would take forever for me to tell you about. But you know, she chose that for herself. She's an opera singer who can transcend, who has an Italian background, decided to become a mariachi based on the effect it had on people that she sang to. And then finally, there's Megan Powell. Megan Powell chose Stephanie Shaw. Stephanie Shaw is from Kentucky. She's a former beauty pageant.
She went on a cruise to Cozumel.
Went on a cruise to Cozumel and decided she wanted to become a mariachi after she saw it on a cruise boat. And you know, when I started this idea, it was like I wanted everyone to own their character, and I wanted them to develop and continue refining that character so that they felt comfortable bringing out whatever experiences that they had. And again, within the context of a mariachi band, where we get to play with concepts of what everybody thinks a mariachi band is about. I'm sure that if we go to the north side of Chicago, we go to a restaurant that's Improviachis, they're going to expect us to get in their faces and play and be more Latino based than all this different diversification we have in it. Did I make up a word? Diversification?
Sounds good.
That's a word.
It's a word.
I'm going with it. All right. But if, let's say we go down to San Antonio, Texas, or Pilsen even. It's a completely, wow, there's a good chasm there. But like, if we went to California, like East LA, we went, you know, somewhere else, their expectation of what the group can do and what we do is completely different. So we have, it's a blessing in the sense that we're allowing ourselves to not only be true to ourselves and within a given structure, but we're also doing our best to honor what it is that we're trying to portray, which is, we are a mariachi band for all intents and purposes. So we want to be able to play to both kinds of expectations, and we're a happy, weird mix of the two, and we get to play with that. We get to push what people are expecting from us. We get to push on that idea, which is really exciting.
And I also think that, you know, everything that's been said has been sort of lofty and high-minded, but, you know, to keep in mind, we're comedians and we're musicians, and we're not above making up a song about a guitar having sex with a bear and giving birth to a bear guitar. You know, at the end of the day, it's about having fun and being silly and playing with each other. So I think, you know, while we have a philosophy in mind, we have, you know, sort of a mission statement in terms of, you know, the style of comedy we do and what we want to accomplish. first and foremost, it's about honing our skills as musicians and as comedians.
What you said about the Pilsen/San Antonio audience versus the Northside audience. I wish there were an express train.
Light rail.
Yeah, that I wondered. Do you feel like a largely white audience wants or expects you to be more Latino in air quotes than other audiences?
You know, we've played for lots of different kinds of audiences, and you know, when we have a good show, you know, we think that, you know, we're pretty fun and delightful for audiences in different ways. For some weird reason, I tend to feel more at home when we're performing for Latino audiences. Like when we performed at, what was it? When we performed last year in Pilsen at the Mexican Museum of Art.
The Pilsen Improv Festival.
Yeah, the Pilsen Improv Festival. Yeah. It just felt more natural to me to come into this stage with this audience. It feels like they kind of know more what to expect, you know. And there's a word in Spanish that I don't even know. I don't know if it's more of just a Colombian word, but it means relajo, which means like messiness or laid backness, and it's just all about having fun and being silly.
Yeah, I think from the perspective of where we go between the two kinds of audiences, the more Latino audiences, we get to play, in my opinion, more relaxed, because we don't have to show them or demonstrate the mariachi side of what we're doing. They already kind of get it, right? So it just kind of allows us to be us, and whereas we're playing for non-Latino audiences, we kind of have to help them say it's okay for you to laugh at what we're doing, and it's okay for you to, here's what we're doing, here's the mariachi experience. Yes, I know your Pepe's chips and salsa experience with mariachis may be what you know about it, but here's more to it. And I think, again, running into that kind of color barrier, some of the audiences feel that they don't get us initially sometimes, especially if it's a new audience. They're not sure they can laugh, and then we make it such an interactive experience, especially at the Chicago Improv Festival. This last show we did a Friday show where we said everyone here is a mariachi tonight. Everybody. We started handing out hats, and everyone immediately jumped in on it. And you can tell that they want to, but they're not quite sure what they should do with themselves. So I think that's where we tend to play harder, in the sense of like just assuring you that, hey, it's okay for you to be with us on this one. And whereas Latinos, it's like, hey, you already know, come on, jump on in, you know you're part of this show.
I guess you could say, because of that culture barrier, there's a little more hand-holding for non-Latino audiences that we have to do, but it doesn't, I mean, you know, like my comment before wasn't to be interpreted as I enjoy it less. Like I said, we feel a little more at home. I just feel like, I just think that there's just a little more work to be done at the top of the show in terms of sort of, you know, introducing, let's say, more Caucasian audiences to what we're about. But it's more like giving them, instead of a Spanish language lesson, just maybe a culture lesson on how to laugh at Improviachis.
I noticed too, like with the more Latino audiences, there's like kind of an instant chuckle when we come out with the sombreros and like our like t-shirt. We wear a t-shirt. It's like a t-shirt tux thing, but it's a mariachi t-shirt, which is like awesome and cute, and like, yeah, people love it, and there's like an instant chuckle usually. And I've noticed too, like some of my friends who are Latino or my neighbors, if they see me carrying my sombrero, they're always like, where are you going? Like, what are you doing? And it's like nice, because it's a nice way to start talking about like, oh, I'm in this mariachi band, but it's actually like a comedy thing, and you know, it's like really nice. And I feel like sometimes Latino families that know about mariachi or like have any kind of like little tie to it usually have some kind of like chuckle or memory that they want to like know what it's about, and it's an instant cue for fun, I guess, where sometimes, yeah, like maybe a non-Latino audience is kind of like thinking more in the traditional music style, they're trying to be respectful, whereas we're trying to get them to play with us and be a part of the band, which happens a lot, but super happened at the upstairs gallery at the Chicago Improv Festival. We had instruments and hats everywhere. It's fun. It's a good time.
What do you think improv gains from people forming a group around a cultural viewpoint?
That's a good question.
Thanks.
We only get one shot in answering this right. Wow.
I'm gonna take a stab at this. You know, I don't think improv as an entity or as an activity or as a concept necessarily gains anything more than music gains anything from being from a different country or from a different culture. But what we gain from doing improv from this perspective is, you know, a little bit more kaleidoscopic experience of what we can make happen. I think it just makes us grow rather than improv grow, because improv is pretty limitless. So you know, we could. I'm sure there's fantastic improvisers in China who do things that we haven't ever conceived of. You know, so doing improv from this, you know, Latino cultural perspective, it's more for us as the performers rather than improv itself.
Here's my take on it. Yes, and the majority of what you said. I think we are able to challenge improv in this following manner, and especially with this group. And this is kind of my mantle to carry versus the rest of the group. This is just kind of my observation. I think this group challenges improv in what is right and what is wrong. I think that there is we get bombarded through our training as to the rules of improv, and I think Michael Gelman, the improv guru of Second City and other places, instilled in me, which I use to this day, is that I know nothing about improv, I just have a lot of opinions. And when he said that to me, that's always resonated, because we tend, as a community, to give ourselves a lot of rules, things you can do, things you cannot do, on and off stage. And Los Improviachis, at least specifically for what we do, I feel we transcend at least 4 different kinds of disciplines of comedy. Stand-up, musical improv, regular improv, and sketch. And we incorporate all of that in what we do. And so we're not quite musical improv, but we're not quite stand-up. And you know, what are you? You're this amalgamation of different viewpoints and different methodologies. And I think that challenges improv more than anything else, because when we go to these venues, we get the luxury of being like nobody else. And so I think we get to challenge what musical improv is all about. For example, when we go play with another musical improv group, it's like they don't know what it is that we did, and it hopefully pushes them to be like, oh, you know, this, you know, what I studied at IO, or what I studied at Annoyance, or Second City, or Comedy Sports. I'm being challenged as to, oh, well, look what they did. They didn't stick to what it was that we got trained on. Maybe we can go off and do something else completely different. And I love the fact that this group can do that. We can transcend that, and we can take advantage of the fact that we know we can do that.
I think our group is just the ultimate salute to the idea in improv of making a choice, no matter what that choice is, and committing to it 120%. You know, we come at it with this very specific, hard to define look and style of performing, and we just give all of ourselves to that. And you know, you can walk into a show saying, I don't know what I'm seeing, what is it? I mean, I'm allowed to laugh at this, and by the end you get it, because we committed to that choice as much as we could, and that's, you know, like I said, a major facet of improv is what choice am I making, and does it matter why I made that choice, but no, here it is, and I'm gonna give it to you, and we do that, and so it's cool to be a part of that.
I don't know, I agree with everybody's saying, but I'm thinking also about the Pimprov show and Chemically Unbalanced. We opened for them once, and I had never seen the show before, and I felt that there were certain things about our show that lined up nicely with what they do in their show, and that's really the only other kind of improv experience that I've seen that is similar to ours. I mean, they're completely different shows, but like that idea of kind of using a culture or an idea that's kind of culturally specific, but like making it this super accessible, like fun show for people to be at, and be involved in, and like it's just a new way. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily like change improv, it just changes those people's experience at that show. And I don't know, it's nice, it's fun, it's like, you know, I'm still at my point in my improv like training that I love going to shows and I love like being a part of things and feeling like I'm a part of the performance even if I'm not a player in it. And so shows like that, like Improv and our show, they're so accessible and like super high energy, I think is what it is. It's like you're just like crushing the audience with like your energy and your like just your characters and the way that like they feed off of the audience, like, and the players we feed off of, we feed off the audience and the audience feeds off of us kind of thing. I don't know, I think those are two, like, us and them are really good examples of what that does for the performers and the venues and the people at the shows more than like.
May I add one thing? You know, earlier on, I think I didn't quite express, you know, the point I wanted to make well enough, but hearing these guys helped me, I think. Earlier what I said is, you know, I think that improv is pretty limitless in what you can do with it. You know, basically what these guys, you know, have said much better than I did is that we're getting to do things with it that it could always do, but that no one's ever done before.
Anyone have other things they want to say? Any thoughts or questions I should have asked them to think of?
Go ahead.
I think for me, you know, going through these training programs that are very, you know, regimented and teaching you a specific thing, and with any art form and improv especially, they're not always tangible ideas. They're just things that you kind of have to look at from all these different ways and try your best to understand. It's nice to have these groups that are looking at it from their own perspective and kind of doing their own things on the side, and to be able to take what I'm learning or take these, you know, ideas and try to apply them in another way. It just helps reiterate and really helps you get grounded in what you're being taught. And so I'm so thankful to have these opportunities to, you know, deconstruct these ideas and flip them around and try something weird with them. And some choices are effective and some aren't. And so it totally helps you learn when you are doing things in a totally different way. You know, I don't know, it smooths out the ideas that you're learning in other places.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss something you didn't ask, but I think you're kind of getting there with that. It's what makes, how do we fit, how does Salsation, Improv, Stir Friday Night, Three-Peat, you know, these various groups around the city, how do we fit within the system, right? Like, what is our value and what's our value add for it? And I think ultimately, right now, we're kind of the farm system, for the most part. We're the farming system, you know. What I kind of hear is, you know, we see a lot of people go to these institutions and they're looking for that cultural, you know, identity, attach themselves to their culture and kind of explore it. And again, because of just the logistics of going to these training centers and the city we live in, you don't get a whole lot of that. So at Second City, that's most of my background. You know, you have the Outreach and Diversity Program, which is doing its best to really, really bring more color to the stage. And they're doing a really good job, but what happens if you can't do it? It's only limited. I mean, there's only, you know, 6 to 10 people that can do it at any given time. Who else can you go and play with? And I kind of see Salsation being one of the various groups that are out there that are helping cultivate that talent and help it grow and give it an avenue. Again, we can't service everybody, but at least you know we're out there and that you can do those things. And I think we're giving, you know, people come out of our programs and move on and they go off and do great things. And they're on house teams in Second City, or they're doing stuff at IO or wherever. We have people out in LA already doing stuff. So Stir Friday Night, good friends of ours, we consider them kind of our sister company. Stephen Yoon, I mean, look at him where he's at now with The Walking Dead. I improvised with that kid back in the day, and it's really exciting to see that we were able to, at one point, see and help in a very, very minor way. He did it all himself for the most part. See them grow up into these very successful roles and doing things for themselves, and in turn we kind of get the benefit, the trickle down benefit as well. It's like you go on to go do something good, Salsation can say, hey, we were working with this cat back 10 years ago, and we were doing stuff with them. So I kind of see us as the farming system and everything else, from an independent perspective, and I think that it's kind of not our job, it's more of a byproduct of what we're doing. But I think as long as we stay true to the cultural aspect of what we're trying to portray out there, I think it's just naturally going to happen. And kind of a goal that I would like to see moving forward is that moving forward, we actually have this plan where Pimprov, Stir Friday Night, and Salsation will be doing a show together to celebrate the fact that we've got this different culture. But the fact is that we're going to look at uniting and kind of putting out a fourth and a beacon to the rest of Chicago to say, by the way, we're here and we're supporting this. Come out and support us individually, support each other, and as well get your experience in with us and see what we can make.
I will buy my tickets to that
Yeah.
show tomorrow.
Yes.
Can I go around?